Keep that butt rubber side down.
You right there, ladies and gents, how's it going? I've had a few people ask me recently how I mount my Insta360 One X to my motorbike when I'm doing those fantastic little angles that it allows me to do. Now, it's not all magic, you know. It's all pretty straightforward. Initially, I used to use the SailVideoSystem's body mount, and I still swear by that. I think it's a fantastic way of mounting the Insta360 One X to your body, but with that comes certain restrictions, and it's a bit of a pain in the bottom when you're out riding with other people, because it takes a lot of setting up. So I tend not to use that very often, especially not when there's a chance for me riding with other people. I've already done a video showing how I mount the Insta360 One X with the SailVideoSystem's mount. Now, it was in my early days of using the camera, and I was very inexperienced with how best to get the most out of it. So although the content that I put to showcase it wasn't brilliant, that method is still there and still being utilised. But when I mount the camera on the motorbike, I use ram mounts. I think they're blooming awesome. I didn't realise quite how strong and versatile these things are. Now, on this particular bike, I've got 2 ram mounts set up on it, and I'll show you how I do my Triumph in a little bit, and I'll show you how I do some of the different angles and stuff as well. So the one most people have asked me questions about is the front mount. It's where I attach the camera so it points back at me while I'm riding towards it. And as you can see from here, it does make it into quite a javelin, which isn't everyone's cup of tea, and it does poke out quite a little way. Now, I do have some hints and tips for this if you are going to be mounting it this way. So first of all, let's go down to the mount so you can see how they work. So you can see here I've got the ball mount, which is attached to my wing mirror mount. Now, I've got my wing mirror mount upside down because I don't have the standard wing mirrors fitted to this bike. I've got the bar endies, but yeah, I'm just using the screw from that to bolt this little ball mount where the wing mirror would have gone. Then you've got the ram mount, and then inside here you've got another ball mount with the 1/4 inch, I think it is, thread that you get on most camera mounts, which allows you to screw in the invisible selfie stick. Now, as we go along the invisible selfie stick, you'll notice here I've got the camera angled so it's as good as horizontal as best as I can. What I found is if you have it vertical, which actually gives you better quality because you get equal light on both sides of the lenses, it can act like a little sail, and if it was this way and the wind catches it from the side, it could push it that way, or if the wind catches it from this way, it could push it that way. And I don't really want this swinging out all uncontrolled when I'm not expecting it to. So what I do is I mount it in the sort of horizontal platform, and that allows the wind, generally I've put it so it goes upwards rather than downwards. I'd much rather it went upwards if it did get caught. It's never done so far. It's pretty solid in a ram mount, but doing it this way means that the only thing that will happen to this camera if the wind catches it, which it does when you're riding along at 40 mile an hour or whatever, it will just lift up a little bit. But that also acts like a little bit of torsion on it, which keeps it a little bit more stable, because once the wind is underneath it, it holds it up and it bounces a lot less. Okay, so that's how I mount the Insta360 One X to the front of the bike on my Moto Guzzi. So if we carry along down to the back, we've got this mount here, which is again another one of those little bolt-on ball mounts. I've put it behind the foot peg bracket, and then I've spaced out this side with a thick washer. Then we've got the standard ram mount going into another ball mount. This is another one with those 1/4 inch camera mount threads in it or whatever. And then as we come up to the camera, which in this instance I have got facing vertically as opposed to horizontally. There's a lot less wind at the back because you've got your body deflecting it and stuff like that. The reason I like to do it this way is, like I said before, is that you've got 2 camera lenses on these, and they've got auto brightness control. So yeah, if the sun, like we've got at the moment, is almost above us, then yeah, you want them to both have the same amount of light either side of them. On some of my earlier videos and some of my current ones, you'll often see it looks like half the lens is really bright and half the lens is just sort of normal, and that's purely because I've either had it around like this, or the light hasn't been equal both sides of it with it vertical like that. This is the Triumph. This is how I mount them on my 765. So we've got the front mount, and this time, instead of using one of those clips on the mirror, I've actually just got a bar mount which I use. Again, it's a round mount. It's really sturdy, really strong. The only trouble I don't like with the round mounts, or at least all the ones I've bought so far, is all blooming Imperial. Now, in the UK we use metric threads, and if you buy a Garmin sat-nav which comes with round mounts, they use metric threads on them. It's a lot easier. Half my spanners don't fit this. But anyway, I have found a way of getting it on and off, and it is nice and sturdy. But yeah, just remember, if you are in the UK, you need to have a Imperial spanner to be able to tighten these ones up. Another top tip with the round mounts and the Insta360 invisible selfie stick, make sure that this bit here is in line with this bit here. Otherwise it will show, it won't be invisible, because the stitch line of the camera lenses is directly down the invisible selfie stick. And this bit here might show up a little bit. You can hide it if you want, because you've got so many gubbins here. You can have it so it's up below, so it doesn't show up and stuff like that, because all this kind of goes into a blacky blur once you're actually on camera. So yeah, I mean, I think this is quite a good way of doing it, and having it on the bar there is nice and solid if you haven't got the facility to mount it onto the mirror there with the other mount that I was using on the Moto Guzzi. Make sure you keep these nice and tight, and make sure you've twisted that all the way in so that doesn't work its way loose with vibrations. Also, make sure the bar is nice and tight all the way along it, and again at the top here, make sure this bit is nice and securely tightened to the end there. Like I said before with the Moto Guzzi, keep these horizontal rather than vertical at the front. It's just in case wind catches it, it's not going to swing sideways. That could be a problem. It could certainly be a distraction. On the rear, I've also gone for another one of these bar mounts. It holds it nice and securely on the passenger foot peg bracket, and again, try and keep these straight if you can, but because you're actually angling the Insta360 selfie stick in towards the bike a little bit, this is mostly hidden anyway, so you don't need to worry about that quite so much on the rear. When I did my track day on the Triumph over at Brands Hatch, I used this little mount here, which is quite a handy one. It allows you to mount the 360 camera onto a GoPro mount and swivel it. So what I actually do is, although it's slightly off-centered, I'm able to actually angle the camera in a little bit to keep it central on the motorcycle, and that works quite nicely. It's a little bit close for how I'd like it ideally, but on a track day they don't like having anything sticking out of your motorcycle, which is understandable. Now, the last angle I did, which I got some very good feedback from, was this one here. So again, I'm using the bar mount on the foot peg bracket with a round mount, going to the ball mount with the camera thread on it, Insta360 selfie stick not fully extended, going down to the back of the bike. And what I've done is I've kept it in line with the number plate, pretty much. So that means that the number plate isn't going to be interfering in the view, because a big yellow thing doesn't look particularly pretty. And I've angled it in just slightly so that it gets it nice and close to that rear tyre. Now, the trouble with this is the Insta360 One X lenses are really expensive, and you have to send them to Hong Kong to get replaced. So do this one at your own risk. Now, the reason I haven't gone all the way behind the wheel, which is something I'd love to do, is purely because of that. There's such a high chance of a stone getting flung up off that tyre and it will just smash that camera. So I leave it here, just to one side, and that seems to work quite well. Again, no, I haven't gone that low either, because your suspension will compress over bumps and stuff like that. I also suggest that you avoid going over potholes, because again, if you ground this camera out, it's not going to be thanking you. It's not going to be saying you're an awesome owner. Now, this mounting configuration I've not actually used on the Triumph. I have used it on my Moto Guzzi and I really like it. It's great as a selfie cam, so looking back at the rider on the bike, because you get such a wide angle lens with these, even wider than the super view on the GoPro, you can really get a nice feel for how the bike's moving around and what the bars are up to and stuff like that, as well as seeing the full rider. And I really like that view, and others have said that that's quite good too. But again, that's using it as a selfie cam. And this is one of the few occasions where I'm more interested in creating the correct angle so that the rider is 90 degrees to the lens. Normally I'd be more interested in hiding the mounting solution, because that will no longer be hidden anymore, because it's in plain sight for this lens here. So yeah, it's a sacrifice, but actually it's not one that I've really noticed a problem. Another good thing about having it here like this is if you do go past something awesome, like the Eust Valley Viaduct or whatever, you can spin it round in your editing program, because you can edit each video in a million different ways. So you could completely film one where you're looking at the rider, and then you do another film from the same footage, looking at all the wonderful things that you're riding past, and then edit them all in together. It's a wonderful little camera, really, really clever. Now, mounting the camera on the nose piece is something I haven't had much luck with yet. I use my GoPro Hero 7 on the nose piece when I'm doing track days, and that works really well. It gives you a nice perspective of what's in front of you, and you get the image stabilisation from the GoPro Hero 7, which is just amazing. Excuse all the bugs, by the way, this bike is in dire need of a birthday clean. But yes, what I find having this mounted here is that bumps and stuff seem to affect it a lot more, and it gradually works its way down to its lowest position, which is then blocking the air intake, which obviously isn't great for the bike. And I don't like the idea of this camera just gradually having a mind of its own and just flopping down, which it seems to do. And I think it's to do with these mounts. They don't grip hugely well under vibration, so it's like an impact driver going over bumps. But yeah, here I'd love to get it working. I've just not been able to so far. With the camera on the front here, if you do get this one to work as a solution, I do suggest keeping it this way round as opposed to that way round, although that would make more sense with the mount I'm using here. Keeping it this way round actually means that if you wanted it looking back at the rider, you'd be able to, no problem at all, without the side of that causing any distortion to the face. And also, if you wanted it looking ahead at the road in front of you, again, you're going to get minimal distortion due to the stitching being on the sides and heading up in towards the sky, which generally means that you're not going to have any distortions looking up at the sky. I've put clips in during this video in the hope that that shows to an extent what these camera angles offer. Now, they're going to be lower in quality than they would have been if they'd come straight from the Insta360 One X, and that's just because I've ripped them off YouTube from my old videos. I don't store anything on my cameras anymore or on my PCs. Once I've done with them, I get rid of them, because that's why I put them on YouTube, it's to store them on there. Now, down below you'll find some affiliate links to all the items that I've gone through in this video, including the camera actually, and the various other bits and bobs. So if you are interested in getting one of these cameras, or you've got one of the Insta360 One X cameras and you want to get some of the mounting solutions that I use here, do follow those links. It gets me a little kickback. It's very minuscule, it's very tiny, but it all helps fund the various equipment and stuff like that. Now, I do this as a hobby, I don't do it for the money, but it is expensive, and if I can get a little kickback without it affecting the price that you pay, then that's ultimately, as far as I'm concerned, a good thing and worth doing. Don't ever feel obligated to click on those links or even buy anything from them if you do click on them, but just so you know they're there, and it would be appreciated if you did use them. Now, with the sun fast disappearing below the houses, I'm going to close this one out. If you haven't already done so, please click that subscribe button. You've seen the Triumph, you've seen the Moto Guzzi. I've also got a Beta and an Alp 4.0, which I use for green laning. I go visit castles, I go do track days, I go out all sorts of adventures around the country, hopefully in the future further afield too. So do check out my channel and sub if you think any of the stuff I do is of interest to you. Now, if you enjoyed this video, you like the Insta360 One X, you like my bikes, you like the camera solutions, or whatever, you just think I'm amazing, please give it a little thumbs up. And if you don't like me, you don't like anything I've ever done, feel free to give it a little thumbs down. That's all cool, we don't mind that at all. But whatever you do, please drop in a comment, especially if you've got some input regarding the Insta360 One X and the mounting solutions I've used. Maybe you've got an alternative that will give just some absolutely amazing thing that I've not even considered. I'd love to hear from you. Right, you ride safe. Take care, and I shall catch you all in the next one. Bye-bye for now.
Keep that bike rubber side down. You know, you gotta keep that bike rubber side down.